Test, 1, 2, check. Hi, everybody. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to our 2019 Washington Mayoral Candidate Forum. I'm Dave Foster for WAMW, and we welcome those who are here at the Washington High School Auditorium. Make some noise, folks. Let people know that you're here. And we welcome those listening on WAMW. We are broadcasting on Memories 107.9 FM, 4-Star Country, The General, 95.9 FM and 101.3 FM, and AM 1580, both stations streaming live at WAMW, AMFM.com. Also, the Washington High School Radio and TV class broadcasting on their YouTube channel, which is WHSH Broadcasting on YouTube, if you want to watch. And again, we want to say thanks to Washington Community Schools for allowing us to be here and use their auditorium. Thanks to School Superintendent Dr. Dan Rhodes for his help, all the maintenance and support staff here for putting on the event. Thanks to the gentleman here to my right, Don Spillman, helped us putting together some questions and used his wisdom a lot for tonight. And thanks to our on-site producer, Andy Morrison, and our studio producer, Jake Foster. And tonight we're going to welcome our candidates for Mayor of Washington in 2019, Republican Diana Snyder and Democrat Washington Fire Chief Dave Rhodes. Everybody welcome them here. The one who prevails at the November 5th election will be taking office in January of 2020. And again, a big thanks to both of you for participating here tonight. Now, here's how tonight will work. We met with both candidates a few weeks ago and agreed on this format for this forum. Each will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement, and who goes first was determined by a coin toss, and Chief Rhodes won that, so he will go first, and then Diana will give her opening statement, and then each candidate will be asked a series of 12 questions. Same question will be asked of both, and each has up to 2 minutes to answer and comment. We picked 12 questions to keep tonight's forum to right around an hour, and again, each candidate can use the entire 2 minutes, but it's not required. Your time will start when you start speaking, and when time is up, Don will be our timekeeper, and he will say time, and you could finish your thought or your sentence and just wrap things up. And so after the final question is answered, we'll do some closing statements. Each has 2 minutes for that. And since Dave goes first the first time, we'll start with Ms. Snyder on the closing statements. Tonight's questions compiled by a panel at WAMW. They're from the news department at WAMW. We also had some online questionnaires and on our website, and the public wrote in some questions, and we did use a few of those. We consolidated and edited because we got a lot of the same questions. And so with that, we will start. So we will have Chief Dave Rhodes have his 2-minute opening statement. And again, your time begins when you start speaking.
Good evening. My name's Dave Rhodes, and I'm running for the mayor of the city of Washington. I have currently 28 and a half years experience with the city of Washington. I have been your fire chief for the last 13 years, and I've worked under 3 mayors and 4 administrations as fire chief for the city of Washington. I'm married to Darlene, 13 years. We have three children. I have 2 stepchildren. I have 13 grandkids, and I'm a lifelong resident of Washington. I went to school here, graduated in 1977. My dad served as a city councilman in the middle 80s under Dave Abel. I currently is serving under a few boards on RSVP, PACE, the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association, as a board member on all 3 departments, organizations. I'm also a member of the KSC Knights of Columbus 630, FOP Lodge 101, and I attend church at Our Lady of Hope Catholic Church here in Washington. The reason I went to the mayor of Washington, I'm running for the city of Washington, is not only my 28 years experience with the city, but also that my heart's in this. It's not about me. I'm not running for mayor for me. I'm running for the city of Washington and the citizens of Washington. I've served Washington for many years as a public safety officer, and I want to continue to serve the city of Washington as mayor of Washington. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Snyder, anytime you're ready.
I grew up here in Washington. My father is the late Harold Colbert. My mother is Margaret Colbert. My dad was the postmaster here in Washington, and my mother worked for many years at the State Bank of Washington. I graduated from Washington High School in 1981. When I graduated from college, I pursued an education at VU first in law enforcement with a degree, and then continued on to IU, where I have a degree in public administration. I came back to Washington even though I had opportunities to take my life elsewhere at that time, because Washington's home, and this is where I wanted to come back to get married and raise my family here. For almost 34 years, I've been director of Davis County Community Corrections. I have worked with clients on a daily basis to help them change their lives for the better. I want to become mayor of Washington so that I can improve the lives of our citizens and give them an opportunity to develop a broader range of and improve their lives, and hopefully make others want to call Washington home. I want to be your next mayor because we can jumpstart development around I-69. We need to have better affordable housing options, better access to health care, quality schools, and ensure public safety. Not to mention better jobs, better streets, infrastructure, and a better future for our kids. Washington has a unique history. We are neighbors who care for each other. We have great quality of life in Washington and an enormous opportunity to grow, and I want to take us there.
Okay, thank you. We will ask the crowd to, not that it's a problem, but we'll ask to, if you hear something, just hold your applause or hold your reaction, and so the candidates can finish their thoughts as they answer the questions here this evening. And with that, we will start with our first question. Again, we'll be asking both candidates the same questions to answer and comment on. And the first couple of questions have to do with transportation and roads. So we'll ask Ms. Snyder first. The rebuilding of old US 50 through Washington will be done in 3 phases over most of the next mayor's term. What measures will you propose to deal with the congestion and traffic problems on Washington and Daviess County's most traveled roadway?
It's going to be a very trying time. We've not undertaken a project of this nature. I believe in our history that our main infrastructure, our main road through our community is going to be torn up and redid from the infrastructure up. So it's going to take everyone's patience and time to understand the complexity of this improvement for our city. We're going to have to communicate effectively with our citizens to make sure they understand what options they have to continue through the thoroughfare, to make sure that they know what closures will be done, to make sure that our police department and our fire department are also aware of the changes and what closures are happening to make sure that they can still continue to provide service to citizens of Washington. I have worked for many years with different projects in developing my current program and understand difficult situations with changing ideas and improving situations for our citizens. I would hope that each one of you would look at the greater picture and understand that this is going to bring improvement to Washington. This will be our new, what I consider, hallway into Washington from our new front door at I-69. It will make our community be so welcoming to those individuals coming to town for different events that we have, from sports to festivals to other things, or especially right now, the KSC drawing, that will give them that we have a sense of care and concern for the way our community looks to others. So I would ask that each one of you, as we move through this project over the next 4 years, feel free to ask questions. There is a meeting next week that you can come and ask questions.
Thank you, Diana. Same question, you like me to repeat it, or are you good?
You're good. The Highway 57 project, it's going to be one of our biggest undertakings we're going to have for the next 4 years. This is a 20-year project that's it's going to be paid out on a 20-year project. It's over $20 million in funds, paid with TIF money. The mayor's done a great job trying to get this to this point, but now we're going to have to work, and it's going to be in 3 phases. And the first phase is going to be next year. The west end phase is going to be 2020. The east side is going to be 2021, and the middle section is going to be 2023. We got department heads in place that'll help. We got communication that we'll use to make this project more favorable. It's going to be a big undertaking. We're going to have to ask, our IT department. We got a plan in place with it to use it and for the communication level. We also have to have, we got Midwest engineers doing the infrastructure, and we got VS engineering doing the road section. We've had meetings on this already. We got another meeting, as Diana said, next week, and we'll use those 2 firms and their technology and their experience to get us through this project, but we're going to have the patience of the people. TIF money is going to be spoken for a long time. It's going to take care of this project, but we're going to be out. The thing we're going to have to think about is maintenance down the road. It'll come before we know it, and we're going to have to start with a plan and put that in place.
All right, thank you, Chief. And I will tell you, if you need me to repeat a question at any time, I will certainly do that. Our next question, still dealing with Rhodes, and we will start with Dave Rhodes. How will you work to improve, plan for, and pay for the maintenance and upkeep of Washington city streets other than Business 50 during your tenure?
We have, in the last several years, and since I've been chief for many years, we've done a lot of road maintenance, paving. We've been lucky enough to have money set back to do those improvements, just like you've seen this year that we're doing right now as we speak. We've been very fortunate. The city has always put those funds back, and we will continue to put those funds back, and we'll continue to pave like we have been, keep the roads up. We're not done, because by the time you make a path through the whole city, then the other part's ready to start again. But we've been very fortunate going all the way back to Mayor Baumert. We take care of our streets, our roads, and there is funding for that, and we will continue to fund that project.
Same question, Ms. Snyder.
One of the things the city has done for many years is applied for the Community Crossings Grant. I'm very much about looking at grant funding to help assist with infrastructure and road improvements in Washington. I would continue to want to apply for that grant, continue to look for that money that's available from the state, continue to look at the money coming into our motor vehicle highway fund that we get from the state that we use for road funding, of ways that we can improve that, the dollars to be used economically, and continue to look at the areas that need paving as priorities over areas that have been paved more recently. I've talked already once with street department, but get with the street department and make sure that we have a continual list of streets that need to be improved, and make sure that we're not repaving places where they were just recently done, so that every street in Washington will look as good as hopefully what Highway 50 looks like when we complete it.
Okay, thank you. We will now have a couple of questions that have to do with economic development, and this question is to Ms. Snyder first. If elected, you will not only be the city's mayor and chief administrator, but also an ambassador for the state and our region of the U.S. What attributes, qualifications, or qualities do you believe you have to help to attract business and industry here from around the state, the nation, and the world?
Well, for the last year and a half, I've been actively involved with economic development and working on several grants and several propositions that we're looking at of bringing to Washington, and how we can make Washington a place that others want to come to and call home. One of those things starts with quality of attraction, looking for employees who want to come and fill the jobs that we currently have open in here in our community. Most people these days who are looking for employment are coming to an area where they have a nice place to live, not necessarily because of a job. But we want to draw those people to a community where they can have access to good paying jobs and employment. The other is that we have to have clear, open and honest communication with all partners and players in Daviess County, and work with companies and businesses such as Radius International, Radius Indiana, and Jetro, which is our Japanese partners, and let them see what qualities Washington has and why they should choose Washington as their next place to open their new industry or facility. But we have to have that open communication and let them know that Washington is open for business, and we're ready to assist them in whatever way we can to bring development to our area.
Okay, thank you. Chief Rhodes.
On economic development, I will work closely with them. The Economic Development Corporation has a director, and we will work closely with him. That is his job. That is his profession. He's a professional at that, but we will use that, and I will work closely with him, along with the chamber, and we really need the business owners to get on board. We need everybody to get on board. If we're going to make this go and we're going to see growth out there on I-69, we need jobs, but we got to also take care of the jobs we got. Everybody says we need new jobs, and we do need new jobs, but we do also have to take care of what we got. We have outstanding city employees. They do a great job. With the expansion, we'll put on more employees as needed. But the employees, and being department head for 13 years, we do a great job. We know what the city has. We know what way we're going, and we will continue doing the work we need to do for the city of Washington.
Okay, thank you, Chief. One listener, and this question goes to you, Chief, first. One listener wrote in saying they would love for their son to stay here when he grows up with a good paying job. And they said, why do surrounding towns get businesses and industry while we've not? What should the city do to get business and industry to locate here? And what should the city do to assist private developers in making property appealing to attracting business and industry?
That's a very good question on the jobs. I don't have all the answers for that. We do need new jobs. I'm not sure why we're not getting the new jobs in town. But there again, we have to have all the business owners, the property owners on board. It's going to take all of us together to work and make this go and make Washington expand and be the town we want to see that it can be. We have to utilize all the areas. I need to talk, just like when I was fire chief, and we have resources out there with different fire chiefs, the same way with mayors. We have to find out what some of these other communities are doing, and maybe steal some of their ideas, maybe come up with our own, definitely come up with our own ideas too, but we're going to have to see what it takes to expand out there. But we've got to have jobs. We're not going to get businesses, and we need businesses, but we've got to have to, this property, and we've got to get property owners on board too, because I've got a feeling that the price of land they got to want this to happen along with everybody else in the community.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder?
Unfortunately, we have an unemployment rate of 2.6% in Davis County. That is good, but it also hinders individuals coming that are looking for employment. If we don't have the right quality of life factors and other things in the community that they're looking for. Our current employers are constantly looking for employees, and we have to work together with them to find out what their needs are. And then if we can address those needs, then we need to look at looking at what other types of employees that future employers might want to be looking at. We have to work together as a group from economic development, from the citizens of Washington. And additionally, we must also partner with Radius Indiana and other service organizations, including economic development, to look at what are our needs and how can we make them know that Washington is open for business and that we welcome their organization to Washington.
Thank you. Next question has to do with the schools and economic development, and it goes first to Ms. Snyder. Some studies across the nation claim that quality schools and up-to-date educational facilities are key factors in economic development and attracting industry and business. Knowing that the proposed school project from Washington Community Schools will affect the Washington community, do you support the schools referendum? Why or why not?
I have not publicly taken a stance on this of the upcoming school referendum. First, as a private citizen and a voter, I am still carefully weighing the case against and for the proposed school and proposed tax increase. Because the mayor's office does not have oversight over Washington Community Schools, I do not believe I should use any influence I have as a candidate for mayor to attempt to impact voters on this issue. The conversation in our community we're having about the referendum is an important one. I have said throughout my campaign that Washington has an opportunity to grow, and it is critical for our future that we do everything we can to accommodate that growth. At the same time, it's important that we keep our taxes low in our community. For these very reasons, it's important that our community decide the merits of this referendum and that the voters decide. Should the voters of Washington select me as the next mayor, I look forward to finding ways to partner with Washington Community Schools to continue to grow Washington regardless of the outcome of the referendum.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder. Chief Rhodes, same question.
This topic came up. It's a big topic in the city right now. I know we need more schools, more school rooms, and we need smaller classes for these children. Our children are number one, but we do need to make sure we keep education number one in our minds and in our during this referendum. I like to see things a little different. I like to see as being fire chief in these planning sessions, I was misunderstood about some of the meetings and stuff, so I didn't make the last meeting. I didn't realize it was for the community. I would like to see it publicized more. There is a lot of questions by the citizens. Some of the questions are definitely taxes. And we got to keep that in mind for these senior citizens we got out there that are on fixed income. We got to keep them in mind. This is a 20-year project. I think this is what Dr. Rhodes said it was going to be. And we have had a lot of communications on it. They have talked to me about the way their career paths are going, and I think they're going in an excellent way, and they do need more room here at the high school. And a new school will provide more room for everybody. And he did say we will not have no vacant schools left unattended. I think it's a very big topic, and as a city of Washington, we do have a game in this. We've got infrastructure we're going to have to do. We got public service we got to provide, and just like we do all the schools. So myself, if we keep those things in mind about taxes, what's number one, maybe look at the whole project and see, do we need everything that's been proposed, and make it sure the citizens knew that is an option for these special projects, let's say. And I do feel like we definitely need this.
Thank you, Dave. Next questions, a couple of them that have to do with some city policy. Goes to Chief Rhodes. One of the practices of the current administration has been the appointment of department heads based on ability rather than party affiliation. Will you continue that approach when appointing department heads and positions if you are elected?
Yeah, I know as a department head, I know my department heads, and our department heads are very good, the ones we have in place. I have worked for 3 mayors and 4 administrations, like I said before. I will, the political game I will address later in the program, but I don't play the political game and don't play the political labels. I don't believe in it. The current mayor didn't believe in it. Now, in the past, that's not been the option. I know the ones I got in place, and if I'm elected mayor, we will talk. And I think they all could be tweaked a little bit, but I have no problem with what I have in place right now.
Ms. Snyder, same question.
Department heads that we currently have are doing a great job. I see no reason to change someone if they are doing the job that they have been asked to do and are complying with all of the things that the mayor's office asks. I would not hire anyone or replace anyone due to their political affiliation. I don't feel it's appropriate. You employ a person based on their ability to perform a job, what their qualifications are, their experience, and their ability to work with others. So I see no reason to do that. I have already met with several of the department heads to discuss upcoming issues that they may have or needs that they feel need to be addressed. I will continue to work with them one-on-one if elected mayor as we proceed into the new year, have discussions with them, open and honest discussions with them, look at their priorities for the upcoming year and make decisions based on the amount of money that has been budgeted for their department and make the right choices for the citizens of Washington.
Thank you. Next question is first to you, Ms. Snyder. What are your thoughts and what will your policy be on city employees taking vehicles home or using them for personal reasons?
I know that it's necessary for some of our departments to be able to do that. Number one, our city police department. I know that there have been some concerns and issues with those in the past, but I know that if I have an off-duty officer that is a part of a special unit or team who is off-duty, who if we did have an emergency rise at a school, I would sure want him to be able to come directly from his home without having to stop at the police department to pick up his gear to save that child if need necessary, or even to go to an individual's home if there was a situation of an armed individual holding a hostage or other situation. So when it comes to police department, they absolutely need to have access to that vehicle because they have everything they need to do their job stored in their vehicle. When it comes to department heads, I believe that most of them are on call 24/7 and should have the ability. That is part of their job, that if they are in town and a situation would arise with their department, whether it be the park, the street, wastewater, that they have the ability to use that city vehicle to return to the site or the place where they are needed. Additionally, for any other staff that are on call, that is another thing that I think is necessary, that they be able to use those vehicles to get to a situation where they are needed, not during regular business hours.
Thank you. Chief Rhodes, same question.
As the department head with the fire department, I do have a take-home vehicle. I am on call 24/7, and along with the police department, we are public service. I have no problem with that. We have done that for years. The police officers, we have a number of new ones, and our number has been up. They do need the cars. The cars need to be seen in the neighborhoods. I think it makes a big difference that they're seen in neighborhoods and keep the crime down and keep the safety for the citizens. Our department heads, they got vehicles. I don't think we abuse that. And I don't think nobody below the department heads has a take-home vehicle. We'll continue to look at that policy. I don't think we're abusing it at all, and I think it's worked, but we'll continue to look at that, and if I'm elected mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Next couple of questions. Well, first of all, we are at the just about at the halfway point. Want to remind folks listening on there that this is the 2019 Mayoral Forum coming to you from Washington High School Auditorium on Memories 107.9 and on 4-Star Country, the General. Next couple of questions have to do with housing, and the first one goes to Chief Rhodes. Washington has granted economic inducements for out-of-town corporations to build apartments for residents in the lower income range. What will your administration do to address the need for construction of middle-class value homes inside the city of Washington?
Well, we have had 2 different business firms come to the city, basically with the same project. We've had one come from the west end of town for a project, and we've had them come to the east side of town for a project. Both of them has asked for tax abatements or whatever, what incentives can we give them. We have offered them incentives. We've offered, haven't offered them tax abatements. We need to look at this. We do need housing. There's no doubt about it. We need housing. We need medium and high income housing. But along with that comes a certain amount of low housing in with these projects. We need to continue to look at this. It's kind of in place. They might come back yet this year, but we do need housing. I think we have to maybe not, give them what we've gave in the past, but maybe come some alternative incentive that we can bring this housing in and look at these projects that are definitely in need.
Thank you, Chief. Snyder, same question.
Davis County in the city of Washington is one of about a half a dozen counties in the state that are expected to grow over the next 10 years. So housing is an absolute necessity if we are to grow. We have had a couple of developers come to town because with that growth opportunity, we have the ability for developers to apply for state tax credits through the state of Indiana to develop this housing. And one of the guidelines with that housing is that some of it must be lower income, some must be workforce-based housing for starter jobs, and the others are supposed to be for more like 2-family incomes. We have to start using out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to looking at how to bring housing to our area. I also want to talk with local developers about what things can we do to help them develop properties in the community. I've already had a couple of conversations with a couple of developers in town about ideas and thoughts of what we can do to help them bring the so needed housing to Washington. I hope that we can work together with the city council and hopefully maybe even the county council and county commissioners to look at bringing quality housing to Washington, and looking also with the local landlords and people who own rental property in the community as how we can make sure that those are available and a reasonable amount for them, so that individuals who want to come into Washington and those who have been displaced have a place to live.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Next question goes to you first. What will your administration do to require landlords to maintain rental properties in a condition that doesn't negatively affect the property values of neighboring homes? And do you feel rental properties should be inspected on a regular basis for safety, livability, and code compliance?
As I just mentioned, I've had some conversations also with some landlords in the community. Those landlords are individuals who make sure that their property is up to code and is livable for individuals. I know there are some others in the community that may not be up to the standards that you and I would want to live in, but I'd like to have us have that conversation with any landlord who is open for that conversation to come as a group and speak with myself and code enforcement and with Jeremy with the fire department to talk about what codes can we make sure that the house is free from insects, infestations, fire code, fire safety. We are limited to what we can do due to state law, so we have to make sure that we're not crossing the line with state laws and state rules there. But if we can get everyone to come to agreement of some sort or type as to what is housing that we think is of a quality standard for our citizens to live in, then we should do that. We should not expect them to be living in anything substandard to what you and I would want to live in if asked to live there.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Chief Rhodes, same question.
This is a situation I've been dealing with as fire chief for 13 years, and we've had conversation with landlords, and we still have conversations with landlords, and we have made big strides. If the state would come out and let us inspect these things, they definitely need to be inspected at least once a year. And we have to get this going. As mayor, we have to get this project going. It's crucial. When I talk to the landlords, I just want to let them understand that I'm not harping on them. I want them to get them up to standard, but it's all about the safety of the citizens. I've been in these houses. I've seen how people live, and the renters do not want to live this way. But the landlords have came about, and it goes to the fire chief, actually. He's the one in charge, and then it filters down on the inspections after that. But we've got a plan in place, and we have worked and made big strides on this, and we will continue to make big strides on this for the safety of the citizens.
All right, thank you, Chief. Next question goes to you. We just have a handful left here, and these have to do with utilities and services. And Chief Rhodes, what are your thoughts on the recent utility rate hike, and would you have done anything differently?
Utilities has always been a service that we provide for the citizens of Washington. We had a rate study in 2018, and we've raised utilities in 2019. Not saying they didn't need it. We have not had a raise for several years, and that was probably the city's mistake. We probably should have had a gradual increase all these years instead of a big increase of 27% and 20% on the sewer and water. I, as mayor, will have to look out for the city's best on utilities, but we got to remember our number one is the citizens of Washington, and we got to remember there was a comment made just recently and said, well, if we to afford this, we'll just raise taxes or we'll raise utilities. That might be what we have to do, but we can't keep doing this because the people with the lower incomes, the senior citizens, and we just keep raising utilities and raise taxes. Something's got to give. If we're making money on utilities, then good. Then we should leave the utilities the way they are. But we do have things we need in the city, but we also got to prioritize. We need a 5-year capital development plan, and we got to prioritize our spending and get it under control.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Snyder, same question.
Unfortunately, sometimes we have to raise rates, but it's not a thing that anyone likes to do for the citizens. Our infrastructure is 80 to 90 years old in the city of Washington. When it was laid, it was the 1920s and 30s, and a lot of the pipes and things underneath the ground are beginning to rust and fade away. We're going to have to replace those. I feel that as we move forward, we have to continue to look at our rates and study those. I'm very much for looking at ways to help fund our infrastructure that don't involve rate increases, including looking for grants and other ways to fund those without having to raise those rates for our citizens. We are one of the lowest utility electric rates in this area. I think Jasper, it may be slightly lower than us, but when it comes to water, we are lower than both Jasper and Huntingburg. We need to take a look at where there are other options or ability to get money to improve our infrastructure. But as time comes along with that many years of service, I know we all want to have clean water when we turn on our faucet, want to be able to flush our toilet, and rest assured that that water is clean and that the waste is going to the appropriate location. Sometimes we are also required by state government and federal government of requirements of wastewater and stormwater that sometimes we may have to implement a new removal of like phosphorus as we're doing as we move forward into this next year, that sometimes can increase cost. And if we can do it without a rate increase, that's the way to do it. But if we can't, unfortunately, sometimes we'll have to look for other alternatives. And to make sure that we do continue to do rate studies on a regular basis so that
Next question, start with Ms. Snyder. It's along the same lines. Where do we stand now with our utility services? Are there more improvements planned and needed? And will there be more utility hikes needed or implemented in the next 4 years?
As I said, I'm very much for looking for grant dollars to help improve our infrastructure in the city of Washington. I know that we're currently looking for a grant from Okra to help with the wastewater, stormwater, phosphorus removal. I would also hope that there are other ways of funding water line and other electrical line updates as we move forward, that we would not have to raise rates. But like I said, we will make sure that we look at rate studies on a regular basis so that we do not have the large amount of increases that we unfortunately had this time, because we felt that we were operating correctly with the current rates. But when the study was done, we found out that there was an increase that needed to be done to continue to operate our self-funded utilities that we have in the city of Washington, and to make sure that our citizens are getting quality product for the rates that they are paying.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder. Chief Rhodes, same question.
On utilities, in the projects we got coming down the pipe, we will do those projects. I just said we got to look at different funding for these projects. We have different ways we can do that. The city's not broke. We got money. We have to utilize some of our money. We have to take responsibility for ourselves sometimes. We just can't pass it on to the taxpayer or the citizens. And we got to take care. We provide a good service for the city of Washington. And on the other hand, out of a small study of 10 communities our size, we're 8th highest. We're number 8 out of 10 on the water and number 7 out of 10 on the sewer. And that could be vice versa. I could have those two back. But so we are kind of on the upper end, and that's fine. We have to provide service. But then we also got to look at that and for the future. On the other hand, like I say, our water lines, they're going to get replaced. The project we got on the highway, we have to do this right now. And if we don't do it right, we're going to be doing it again. We have done all kinds of water line replacements on Van Trees over the years. This city, as fire department, I should know, our water system's up to snuff, and we have a lot of improvements on our water system, and we'll continue to make these improvements.
Thank you, Chief. Believe it or not, we've gone through 11 questions, so this is the final question of the night. It goes to Chief Rhodes first. Do you feel that the city of Washington needs to make changes in regards to trash collection, and what changes would those be?
Trash collection, as 13 years as department head, this has been a topic that we've done. We provide a great service again. Everything we do in the city, we provide a good service. Trash is another thing we have to look at and see how we're doing this. Then we need to prioritize. There's things we need to do in the city, but we need a 5-year plan. We got to prioritize our spending. That's number one. And the trash pickup, I think we won't get into large items. Fees, we have to look at those fees and see what we can do, and maybe continue doing the service, but maybe alter how we do the service.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Snyder, same question.
For many years, the citizens of Washington didn't have to pay for trash collection. Unfortunately, with the times that we have now, that ability to do so is no longer an option. With the $15 that we currently at each person pays with their utility bill, that barely covers the expenses to remove the trash, pay for the truck, the employees who pick up your trash, take it to the landfill. And as landfill costs continue to rise, there's a way we need to figure out what better way can we collect trash. I believe we have a good trash system currently, but as you move around town, you see objects out by the curb, like a car bumper to be picked up, and other things, and waste from people remodeling their homes That is not what the city trash collection was set up to remove from your residents. We need to make sure that our citizens are fully aware of what is able to be put out of the trash, and then what other items the city will pick up and take for you to the landfill. Additionally, we may need to look at further ways to work with recycling. I know that some issues with that have happened due to some federal problems, but we need to look at is there options for a better way for recycling to reduce our output of trash that we take to the landfill on a daily basis.
All right, thank you, Ms. Snyder. That was our final question, so we will move on into closing statements. And since Chief Rhodes went first at the beginning, Ms. Snyder will go first here at the end, and you can begin anytime.
Your local officials focus on issues that impact our daily lives, supporting jobs, keeping neighborhoods safe, paving roads, supporting quality of life, and so much more. As a member of the Board of Public Works and Safety, I have been working on some of these most challenging issues. As a planning team member for the Davis County Regional Opportunities Initiative, I am working with other planning team members from Davis County in our area to develop a quality of place and amenities which can attract tourists and new citizens to our community. Also, through my involvement with Radius Indiana and Davis County Economic Development, I have been working to support local jobs and attract potential new employers. I am passionate about the future of Washington, and I have immersed myself in making Washington an even better community. I'm ready to be your next mayor on day one. Washington has an opportunity to grow. I have the skills, experience, and relationships to be Washington's best advocate for the future. I appreciate you all coming here this evening and would additionally ask and appreciate for your vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Chief?
As I said before, there's been something I've been wanting to address for 10 months about political labels. I am not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm for the city of Washington. If you look up my record, how I voted in the last several years, and see what it shows, you know how I voted. I vote for the person. I voted for the person I can think that can do the job, and I've not used that political game. There's not been one time as I've been fire chief that someone stepped in my office and I asked anybody what their political affiliation is. I don't care what their political affiliation is. I treat them the same way as I do everybody, and I've never pulled up the fire scene yet, and we've never asked that question yet, and we will never will. So that problem has been bothering me for many months, and I just wanted to address that. I'm very proud of the city and the budget. We've came under budget for many years, and we continue. As my department, as a fire chief, I've been under budget for 13 years. Never been. City's done the same thing. I'm very proud of where we've came and what we've done, and where our wages has went for the city employees. We've done a great job to being where I was at 28 years ago and where we're at today. I want to continue working hard for the city of Washington, and I think it's going to take the schools, the business people, all the citizens of Washington to come together. If we don't come together, then we're going to sit here down the road and we're going to spin our wheels. But all together, we can make this work, and we're all working for a better Washington. And on November 5th, vote for Dave Rhodes for mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. And with that, we want to again say thanks to our candidates. Thank you to Diana Snyder. Thank you very much. We can applaud now if you like. And thank you, Chief Dave Rhodes, for participating as well. We give you. And again, we want to say thanks to Washington Community Schools, Dr. Dan Roach, and all the staff here. Thanks to everybody who came here to be with us, and thanks to everybody listening. Remember, the election is November 5th. Early voting going on at the clerk's office. You could vote now through November 4th, Monday through Friday. Also Saturday, October 26th, and November 2nd. Clerk's office will be open 8 to noon for early voting. I'm Dave Foster, and for WAMW, Memories 107.9, and for the General, 95.9 FM, 101.3 FM, and AM 1580, and WAMWAMFM.com. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the radio. Good night.